It's not up to other people to tell you what you're getting and what you should be grateful for.
Hello, beautiful. Welcome to the Trauma Mamas podcast. I am personal trainer and wellness coach Kelly Coffey. I am here with the shockingly beautiful, rhythmically oriented, fresh smelling Sue Jones. Say hi, Sue.
Hi, Kelly. I smell fresh as a daisy, which, by the way, daisies don't smell good. No. I don't know why that's a thing.
Fresh as a thatch of eucalyptus. How's that? Can I share something with you?
Yes.
So I don't know if you know, one of my goals for this year and for my 40s and probably my life moving forward is I want to fact check the things that I assume to be true. Like, I am interested in knowing for sure if what I assume to be true is actually true. So one thing that I assume to be true, because I heard it years ago, is that Roberta Fleck's song Killing Me Softly was written about Don McLean, who you may remember wrote American Pie, which is 8 minutes long. This morning, Killing Me Softly comes on the radio and I'm like, hang on, is that actually true? So to the internet I go. And it turns out it is true, although Roberta Fleck did not write the song. It was written by another woman. But interesting fact is she wrote it while she was at a Don McLean concert. And it wasn't, in fact, American Pie that she was listening to at the time, but a song that I had never heard called, write this down, listener, Empty Chairs by Don McLean. And then I said, Amazon, play Empty Chairs by Don McLean. And suddenly one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life comes on. So this was like a profound moment in my life, and I just wanted to share it.
I cannot wait to get off this podcast and go and listen to both of those songs.
Empty Chairs, followed by Killing Me Softly. You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you for enhancing my life in that way.
Ideally speaking, you would listen to Empty Chairs in a ray of sunlight with coffee in hand and a puppy or two seated at your feet.
All right. Who's joining us today?
Our guest this week is the magnanimous, talented, multilateral, and highly respected Alex.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about you.
So I am in my 40s. I'm a divorced mom of 2 young kids. I have a super demanding job. I am an academic with a career in family and child mental health. I have a sort of platonic life partner who's a close friend that lives in my house and co-parents my children with me, but isn't sort of a full spouse in the way that might traditionally be. And I have a long history of trauma. I had a really tough growing up. I struggle with the ways that comes up in my life, in relationships, in a tendency to overdo things and be too busy, in all kinds of ways.
So what is bringing you to us today?
So I described my sort of unusual family dynamic, and I've been divorced for 4 years now. In the course of those 4 years, I've been dating, and I think there are patterns that I'm getting into that I'm not fully 100% aware of, that I could use some other eyes on. And the person I'm currently dating, there's been this ongoing conflict that I sort of feel stuck about.
What's the conflict?
I met this person almost a year ago, and he lives in another state that's about 3.5 hours away. And when we met, he described himself as living with someone who was a really good friend that he had been married to at one point, that they had like this platonic life partnership. So now we're 8 months in. That person is his wife, who he is still legally married to. There is no romantic entanglement between the two of them. And she lives 3/4 of the week with a new partner. But their child, who's an adult, lives in the house. So he lives in the house with the child full time, and she is usually there 2 nights a week. But they're still married, and there isn't a clear plan for what happens next. This has been kind of an ongoing conversation because I'm getting clearer that I want a full-time person who claims me as theirs. He will say in moments that, they're going to get divorced, but there's no timeline, there's no process, and it makes me incredibly anxious. And in the meantime, he's at my house at least a third to maybe a half time, and I'm at his house a week a month. And so my kids know him now, and they're getting more and more attached to him, and he feels like a part of my family already. I keep getting to this moment where I'm like, I don't know that I can keep doing this the way it is. And his response to that would be, I'm building a future with you. I'm spending all this time with you. You're not seeing any of the ways that I'm showing up or that our relationship is growing. I'm still in the house because my kid is still in the house.
His adult kid.
20 something. And his girlfriend lives there too. But I feel like I get different answers and it keeps coming up as this major issue.
You're expressing that you need this situation that he's hanging on to at least have a timeline. And the way you're describing it is that he turns it around and makes it about you. You're not seeing this. You're not hearing that. You're not feeling this. Is that kind of what's happening here?
I think that's some of it. But when he and I have this big moment where I'm like, I can't, he'll talk to her and they'll talk about a plan or they'll talk about movement, but then I don't necessarily see it or there isn't follow through or it feels vague to me. He's really hard to pin down about what the reality is. Like there's a part of me that feels like if I asked her, she would tell me very clearly what's happening.
So outside of what I described earlier, where you say, I need to know plan, and he turns it around and says, you're not seeing this. You're not seeing what we are. You're not seeing how much I'm doing. You're not.
I also get you're hearing me wrong.
You're hearing me wrong. Okay. So then it becomes all about you. I'm not hearing that he's having any conversations with you about how to transition from the life he's in to a life with you. I'm not hearing that.
And I think there are very tiny snippets where that happens, which is usually in the context of me having raised a white flag of like, I can't do this anymore. And also I feel like it changes depending on the week and the day. And I feel like he's not sure. And so there's no discussion. I don't feel like I know what he's thinking. It shifts.
So you're in a place where you have absolutely zero control and very little information.
Oof. Yeah.
Like we get right to
it. Right to it.
What does that feel like for you?
Terrifying. My ex-wife had an affair and I knew in my gut it was going on, but everybody lied to me about it over and over and over again. And I felt like I couldn't protect myself. I felt like I couldn't protect my kids. And so it feels like that.
Alex, what has stopped you from asking for a sit down with him and his wife for the sake of clarity?
It hasn't occurred to me. It's not a bad idea.
One thing struck me was his approach to your relationship feels super ambivalent. And I wonder what amount of your interest in having him in your life is fueled by the fact that he's ambivalent.
I have parents who have always been really ambivalent about having me as their child in particular. And my mom this year on Thanksgiving decided she didn't want to have a relationship with me anymore and then resurfaced like 2 weeks ago on my birthday, which is very typical of her kind of pattern. And so I know that this sits on my trauma nerve, but I don't know what to do about it. I tolerate ambivalence in relationships when maybe I shouldn't. It's so normal to me.
Well, what you said about your mother, I have to put words to. You're here, right? You're this individual that is feeling like it's not appropriate for you to maybe use your voice or to assert a boundary or to assert a need. And then this person over here, this guy, your mother, decides, oh, I don't want to have a relationship with you anymore. Oh, now I do want to have a relationship with you. She's got all the control. This guy's got all the control. And you're feeling disempowered in what happens to you. Like, am I just going to be the little mouse that is batted around by these cats according to their whims? And I just have to allow that? As I'm talking about this, are you feeling anything in your body?
I feel like that feeling you get in your throat when you swallow a pill and it doesn't go all the way down and it's like stuck.
Oftentimes that is indicating that there has been a pattern of you silencing yourself in favor of connection, even if the connection is not the most healthy connection. Kelly's question about if your experience as a child was that you just really didn't have a voice and you didn't really have a say on your life and you didn't really have a say whether the people around you were going to be treating you kindly and be close to you, or whether they were going to disengage from you and whatever they did. So there's a way in which children try to make sense of their world so that they can feel a sense of safety, which very often is synonymous with control and predictability. If your world of predictability meant I am predictably at the whims of these people, then it makes sense that this relationship is going to mirror that, because even though it causes pain and suffering to feel this sense of powerlessness and to have this guy in control of everything, it is familiar.
The other person's ambivalence is the closest thing to love. If this guy were like, I'm divorcing my wife, I'm selling the house, my kid is an adult and can take care of himself, let's do this tomorrow, how would that feel?
It would feel like being chosen. I actually really like this guy. Like, of anyone I've ever dated, we have the most value congruency, which I think is why I haven't been able to let it go.
What would it feel like if you said, I can't do this anymore, I need to draw this boundary, you've got to be in a different living situation within this amount of time, I need you to choose me. And he said, that's just not going to work for me, so we need to not be involved anymore.
It feels like loss, but also in a way it feels like a relief because it's an answer. He does move. He makes incremental moves when I have like a freak out about it.
Does he though?
Or is he just placating you?
What in reality does that look like?
I mean, he's here a lot of the time. He shows up. Like when he says he's going to show up, he reads to my kid on the phone every night. He makes time to talk to me every day. He has invited me into his life. So he does do all of those things.
I want to go back to that moment where you said, when I really start to put pressure on him, then he does do something.
I feel like I'm driving the bus.
I wouldn't say that. I would say you're trying to catch the bus. I can imagine you as a little girl, just any breadcrumbs from your parents, any little breadcrumb, you were probably like, no, like, thank God I've got a little like sustenance now. Like, yes. And then this long period of time where it's like, well, wait, where'd you go? What's happening? I don't feel this connection. And then you express this dissatisfaction. And then it's like, oh, here's another little breadcrumb.
Here's a tiny little breadcrumb. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
He's got it made. He gets to live with his kid. He lives with his ex-wife, and he's got you on the side. Can you tell me, what are some moments from your young life that had that feeling, that quality of, oh my God, I'm getting a breadcrumb, and some moments in your life where you felt like there was no breadcrumbs whatsoever?
The happiest time my family ever had was we would drive to the beach for a week every summer. And it was the only time where I felt like my father was really present and my mom was less stressed. And there was less arguing. And then predictably every year we would get 3/4 of the way through the week and she would decide it was time to go home because something happened and she didn't want to be there anymore. We never knew when it was going to happen, but it happened every time. And that pattern has repeated as an adult. Like she'll come to visit and say she's going to stay for 3 days and then gets upset on day 2 and leaves.
So if you stay in a place where you're constantly expecting the person who is supposed to be your person to disengage from you, then you're protected. You probably learned as a survival strategy when you were a child to sit in a place of, well, they're going to disengage from me at some point, and I'm just ready for that. And so that when it happens, there's not a place of you that's incensed. There's a place in you that's like, okay, I was ready for that. That's just how it is. Like you said, you just sort of tolerate it. If you do use your voice at all, then you get those breadcrumbs and that keeps you hanging on. Does that sound like it resonates at all?
Yeah. I could do the opposite, which is get really anxious and be like, I need you to reassure me. I need you to reassure me.
I think the opposite is, I know what I need for my life. I am going to use my voice and I am going to set some boundaries and lay out some unconditionals. And if this person can't meet me where I am, then they're not my person.
Is the unconditional a timeline? Is the unconditional a conversation with the two of them? Are we past the point that there could be an unconditional?
I think the unconditional is what's going on here. If you sat down with this guy and his wife and your platonic life partner as a group of adults who are trying to move forward in a reality-based way and discussed what's going on, what the expectations are, and what's happening in 6 months from now, a year from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now, the conflict narrative would dissolve and everybody would be on the same page. Might not be a page that everybody liked, but everybody would be on the same page. I don't understand why You don't do that. This is now having a negative effect on your mental health. The stakes keep going up for your kids because he's not willing to take real concrete steps toward being in your life. That's a huge red flag to me. He's in a cush situation right now where he's got his cake, he's eating it too, and every once in a while he's dropping crumbs on the floor for you. Whatever people in our lives accept, that's what we're going to do. And it's not until there's a tremendous discomfort to continuing to do what we do that we change. And what you're doing is shielding him from experiencing the discomfort that he should be experiencing if he's going to leave his old life and begin a new life with you. It's uncomfortable. You're shielding him from that.
We could sit and talk about what he's doing all day. It's going to be really valuable to start to work out what your role is in this relationship that's allowing him to have this, I've got my cake and I'm eating it too, and I'm going to drop some breadcrumbs when she starts to make some noise. Here's a jumping off point. You're so grateful for those breadcrumbs that everything else goes out of focus. Those breadcrumbs are connected to those times in your young life when you were like, I'm getting love, I'm getting oxygen. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Nothing else matters after that. There's a moment of having some compassionate awareness of how you learned to feel that worthiness and that love. And it sounds to me like it was through breadcrumbs. You don't expect a lot. You don't ask for a lot. You tolerate a lot of shit. And when the crumbs drop, you're so grateful.
Some people that I've been with would say that I do ask a lot, but I also don't expect those needs to be met. So I might say the thing, but then I just let it go.
What you just said is super important. So you squawk and you ask and you want, and then he throws you the breadcrumb of, yes, yes, I'm going to have a conversation with my wife. Yes, yes, I'm going to think about moving forward. Yes, yes. How many times has he learned that if he just lets some time pass, you're not going to follow up and you're not going to hold him accountable?
I think it's happening more and more now because I'm getting to a point where I just can't anymore.
Yeah, he may be a great guy. He also may be a sociopath. We don't know. You're showing, right?
That was Sue projecting.
I have been with sociopaths, and this is not one of them, which I think is why I stay in it.
Oh my God, he's not a sociopath. What a catch. Is that what we're talking about?
That's the bar.
God. I mean, he's a really smart, really loving, really kind.
I'm sure he's a great guy, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is we're recognizing that you have the capacity to say, okay, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. And then he throws you some breadcrumbs and you're like, okay, I'm going to stay. And that's kind of a pattern, but you're not able, at least right now, to set a boundary or a limit or to draw a line and follow through on it. And that's where we need to investigate what feels so risky to you at the thought of doing that.
That he'll disappear. The other is hurting the kids. Like I'm kicking myself about
your kids.
My kids, like just kicking myself.
So in this one small micro moment, there's so much in that. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt my kids. I'm afraid he's going to disappear, which he's doing already. The feeling is I am afraid to feel responsible for the feelings and actions of those around me that I care about.
I'm also afraid of being left and alone. It's really hard to be out in the world, especially as a parent of 2 kids without a safety net. And so like if this relationship ends, I'm sitting in that reality.
Unless something changes, it's not the life you want to be in anyway. When you were a kid, the risk was massive.
Right.
So you had to take those breadcrumbs.
Yes.
But when we take these survival strategies from childhood and bring them into our adult lives, in those moments where you're facing that reenactment, which is the moment you're in, to your body, at least, it feels just as life-threatening, but it's actually not. But that is part of what is keeping you from doing what you need to do for yourself.
Yeah.
I know that my logic will not stand a chance against your own body sensations triggered by your traumatic memories, but I like to say, for the record, Alex is a fucking catch, man. And this idea in her head that this guy is irreplaceable is farcical to the extreme. This is a common theme in my life. I know these extraordinary stick the landing, splashless dive, gorgeous, fabulous women who continually sell themselves short because of the very real fear of being alone. And I get that. And yet, from my point of view, what you deserve and what you're accepting in lieu of that is pretty disturbing to me.
There's a quote from a movie, and I'm going to bastardize it, but it's basically says, we accept the love we feel we deserve. So if Alex grew up feeling this feeling of disconnection and then periodically getting some breadcrumbs thrown at her, then that's the love that she's going to accept. And she is accepting that. And it's not good for you, and it's not good for your kids. There are a lot of things that he should be doing differently so that he can be in a healthy, committed relationship with you, and he's not doing them, and you do not have to stand for it or just accept those breadcrumbs like you did when you were a kid, because it doesn't serve you anymore.
Mic drop.
Now we can strategize. What are the demands you need to make? Let's be clear now. What do you want?
Kelly, when you said all the grownups were going to sit down and there was going to be a 6-month plan and a 12-month plan and an 18-month plan, I could feel my body relax. Like, I think that's it. I think that's what I need.
It's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask for. He doesn't have a contentious relationship with the wife. Let's all come to the table and communicate openly and honestly and get this solved. You're too smart to participate in this level of drama that can only exist if communication is not happening. You couldn't call all the players to the table when you were little and say, what's going on here? Why am I not getting my needs met? Why am I not getting the love that I expect and deserve and want and crave? Because you didn't have the intellectual capacity to ask for any of that shit or even know that it was missing. All you knew was the experiences that you were being given by these people who had their own unresolved shit. You're a mental health clinician. You're in your goddamn 40s, and you deserve to have a sense of what the hell is going on with your primary romantic relationship at base. So let's sit down and have that conversation. And before you do, it would be really helpful if you were very clear about what you wanted and go in smart, yo. So you'd be like, in 6 months, I want you moved out. I mean, don't say it like me because I'm an asshole, but like fucking move out, financially divest from this relationship, get the goddamn ball rolling with the court to be officially divorced, figure out where the fuck you're going to live so I can figure out how I'm going to orient myself to that. And let's do this.
So what's the timeline? Here's what I need to happen, and I need it to happen by when?
I think what he needs to do is make a choice. Life with you or life in this weird life he's living.
But is that fair? I mean, he has a kid.
Part of the moving forward could include that this kid goes and lives with mom, with new partner, or maybe with this guy. The situation does not need to stay as it is for the benefit of this adult child.
I think it will be powerful to present to him that he cannot have everything he wants like he's having right now. He has to make a choice. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to continue with the relationship. And if he says, I can't, then you know that's it.
That is a
end.
choice.
The second thing is, if you say to him, we need to sit down, me and you and your wife, and work out a plan, and he balks at that in any way, you do not want to continue the relationship with that man because he is keeping you separate. He is doing that to benefit him. These are the non-negotiables. So if he happens to say, yes, I choose you, and yes, let's have a conversation with my wife, then we can start to think about what is the timeline. To me, he sounds like the kind of guy that can just stonewall this whole thing and then come back and throw some breadcrumbs at you. It's going to be really important for you to feel into those moments where you feel like in that old familiar place of, oh, well, I got these breadcrumbs, so the other stuff isn't a big deal. You've got to keep that other stuff a big deal. As long as you're accepting those breadcrumbs, this can go on for years.
Years.
How do I know what is and is not a breadcrumb? Because I'm really used to people saying, look what you're getting. You should be happy with this. Like, you're saying it's not enough, but look at all the things I'm doing. Like, how do I know?
It's not up to other people to tell you what you're getting and what you should be grateful for.
Oh,
Oof.
can you say that again?
It's not up to other people to tell you what you're getting and what you should be grateful for.
I'm going to tell you what partners have said to me in the past, because this is where I get the tape in my head. You're not seeing all of the things that I'm doing for you. Your expectations are too high. You're being too critical.
There is a huge difference between someone saying, you're not seeing all of the things I'm doing for you. You're not appreciating me. You're being too critical. There's a huge difference between that and saying, I'm just feeling really unappreciated. I'm not feeling seen. One is
Who's killing it today?
Well, 17 years in an abusive marriage will do it. It is not other people's role to tell you who you are, what you do, why you do it, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling. You are the authority on you, not them.
Except for the two of you who are clearly the authority on me.
Ellie's getting really excited.
I love it. I feel like we're playing basketball.
Well, our role is just to make some hypothetical suggestions, but I just want you to know I have been in that place where if someone says, you're ungrateful, my voice was like, oh my God, I'm such a horrible person. I am so ungrateful, right? You're selfish. The internal voice is, oh my God, I'm selfish. And you know what? I'm also really lucky I have this person to point out all my flaws. Because if I didn't have them, I wouldn't see any of them.
Oh, yeah. Now, you said, how do I know if I'm getting more than breadcrumbs? I want to see ink on paper. I want to see decisive action being taken. And it's really actually very easy to know that he's taking decisive action in this particular scenario, because if he is, then houses go on markets. People start showing up in court. People retain lawyers or get mediators to help with the divorce proceedings.
If you get past the, yes, let's sit down and talk with my wife and work out a plan. If you get yeses for that, then get super clear on the non-negotiables. And you're a clinician, so you are sharp at listening and listening for the messages underneath the words. So sharpen those skills. And anytime that he tries to divert you with a shiny object, I want you to get an apartment, just have a lease signed by 3 months. And he's like, oh, but look over here. Look over here. It is your job to say, nope, we're not talking about that. We're not moving off that subject until we finish with this subject, and hold him to it. And if he's just not going to focus and say, okay, yes, I can do that, you've got a lot of information about whether your needs are going to be listened to, acknowledged, honored, and met.
Also, as an adult woman in the world, you can choose to continue to have this be the way it is. You are under no obligation to hold him accountable. Like, you don't have to do anything. We're not saying you have to do this or else. We're saying if what you say you want is what you actually want more than what you have currently, then this is one strong way that you might proceed.
If you're choosing to just be in this relationship the way it is, if that's the choice that you make, then anytime you're feeling that feeling of being angry or upset at him, you got to remind yourself that you're choosing to be there.
Yeah.
I hope that we were somewhat helpful. I would recommend going back and listening to Melissa's episode called We Need to Talk.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, guys.
Anything you're going to take with you from our conversation that feels useful?
Oh, all of it. Everything.
It was so nice to meet you.
You too, Sue. Thank you.
Holy balls and something. Jesus.
As you probably could tell, I was feeling very spirited in that conversation.
I could feel what you were feeling as Alex was talking, because I know about your history. Like, we're still very much people with pasts.
I felt like I could literally breathe fire, especially around people telling her what she was doing and what she was or wasn't hearing, and because man, once I realized I was in an abusive relationship, I laid out no sarcasm, no criticism, no belittling. And you don't get to tell me who I am or what I do or why I do it or what I'm thinking or how I'm acting. I was like, I'm the authority on me, not you. And those are non-negotiables. And if you do it, I'm calling you out. And I did.
It's a big deal.
I work with women exclusively. I think you do too. I work with a lot of women who let other people tell them who they are,
what they should be feeling, how they should be thinking and interpreting things.
Honestly, and people have read my book or not, but spoiler alert, listening to that and believing it got me to the point of wanting to take my life.
Yeah.
You know, I just got to a point where I was like, I guess I'm just one of those people that's not good for other people.
Oh,
so
baby.
That's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to good ends, as we see here.
I'm going to go huff a thatch of eucalyptus to help calm my nervous system down.
What's up? Put it on a t-shirt. Go huff a thatch of eucalyptus, baby. You just need to relax a little. All right, Sue, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and that we get to do this together.
Grateful for you. You complete me, Kelly.
Shut up. Shut up, Tom Cruise.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please go to our website, thetraumamamas.com. Check out Kelly's Pleasure Principles program. You can get a link to that on our website. Buy my book, There's Nothing to Fix. Get yourself on the wait list for our Timbo program, where you can experience more of what we do in person each week for 9 consecutive weeks.
Dude, it's a lot. Us together live for 9 consecutive weeks is a lot. Not for the faint of heart. Thank you, Sue. Take good care, everybody. We will see you here, same bat time, same bat channel next week. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.